My fellow Guardians, what is going on, y'all? Welcome back to another Planet Destiny Garden of Salvation raid guide. My name is Sly from SlyNation here on YouTube, and in this video we're going to be diving into my walkthrough for the first real boss battle of the new Shadowkeep raid, the Consecrated Mind, also known as the Constipated Mind. Now, this raid has been out for a little while, and there are various ways to complete these encounters, including a stinky cheese. But like I've said before, I think it's rather important to learn an encounter from the inside out the right way for your first time through. Then no matter what kind of trickery Bungo pulls on us via sandbox, subclass or weapon changes, you will always know how to get through this encounter regardless of what else might happen in the future. So in this video, guys, we're going to be taking a look at team composition, characters and subclasses, then we'll talk a little bit about which weapons are top dog for this encounter, scout out the map a little bit, and then we'll finally dive into a couple of brand new mechanics that you need to know about. Once we go over everything, we'll then combine it and set it all into motion. This encounter is actually one of my favorites within GOS, and it's kind of like a mini Riven mixed with Gambit and Vault of Glass by way of moats and exploding harpies. Okay guys, so let's get this bad boy underway, starting with team composition. Warlocks from here on out, it's pretty much Well of Radiance. Have at least a minimum one, preferably two of them. If there are more than two locks, then Voidwalker is a great subclass to run for ad control and taking down a few majors that we'll talk about in a bit. No matter what you plan on running, strap your Luna Boots on for Izanagi users or Whisper users who get juked out by the boss. Throw down smaller wells when you can to help out your team. For the Titans out there, have at least one Bubble Bro, but two won't hurt either. Rally barricades as well. If there seems to be a plethora of Titans around, use hammers with Melting Point. Hunters, Golden Gun with the exotic Nighthawk helmet or Top Tree Tether. Depending on your team makeup, it might be beneficial to use a tether for added damage versus doing more damage by yourself. If there are multiple hunters, then definitely do both. Bungie has changed how damage is applied and how buffs or debuffs work within Shadowkeep, especially when stacking things. So while having a Warlock Well and a Titan Bubble and a Tether is not only overkill, all of those together do not stack, but this boss fight is unique in that you are moving while shooting for a short period of time. So having all three of these out there will guarantee you that you'll get added damage no matter what you do. There are also raid mods, which from what I have been able to see, they do in fact work with damage buffs like Radiance Well or Weapons of Light. So if you have Relay Defender mod, it's a great mod to use for not only this boss fight, but the next one as well. Okay Guardians, next up let's talk about the map and the setup. So this area also hosted the previous encounter and nothing has really changed from then. We're still in a sort of diamond-shaped map with a relay or totems located at the end of the long corridors you see all around you. Between each corridor is a smaller area with a death pit. The boss likes to float his happy self over these pits during the fight, so make sure you check out the areas and watch out for two of them. One houses a piston, which blocks you from a ledge grab, and the other is a circular tunnel with revolving floors. Warlocks and Titans can simply jump across the entire thing, so no need to worry about that, but Hunters, they have to count on timing to make it through these unless you're using jumpies. Now, even though we did not go over them, each relay or totem has an official name. They're called things like underbrush, hedges, etc. You can see the name under your radar once you're in the corridor, but for walkthrough purposes, it was much easier to number them 1 through 4. This time around, it does help to know the name, but simply look for a bright pillar of light shooting up into the sky. That's how you know which relay is active. And finally guys, let's move on to weapons. Now since this is a bit of a DPS checkpoint, top weapons for this encounter are going to be Whisper of the Worm and Izanagi's Burden. Top dog is going to be Izanagi's with the Catalyst completed. Now if you do not have the Catalyst, then it seems that Whisper and Izanagi's are just about even. The auto reloading effect of Whisper is still pretty powerful. During this encounter, you will also be clearing ads at one point, so running an SMG like Recluse, the Raid Fusion Rifle, or a Void Shotgun along with a grenade launcher or LMG such as Hammerhead, all of this works very well. It just depends on your loadout. Now if you're new to Destiny and raiding in general, and you're missing some of these top tier weapons, then try to find a high impact sniper with 4 times a charm and firing line, or at the very least one with triple tap, and then use Thunderlord or any kind of good light machine gun. The one from the seasonal rewards would also fit the bill. Okay, so now that we're done talking about all of that, let's get into these new mechanics. First off, we don't have to mess around with any tethers for this encounter. Okay, well there is one at the very beginning which starts the encounter, but as far as using it during the encounter, that is a big negative. However, there will still be Vex rocking those immune shields, so if we don't have tethers to gain the Enlightened buff, Then how do we crack shields? Well, you do this by banking motes. The first new mechanic is banking motes into active totems or relays. Doing this will grant you the Enlightened buff, which will allow you to pop shields and stop Vex from sacrificing. This encounter, as well as the next, features this mote mechanic. The second new mechanic to learn is actually the boss itself, so before we get into that, let's start setting up this fight. Start out by going back into the same teams you had for the first encounter when you chase the Consecrated Mind through the different rooms. Once again, we will need to be formed into 2 teams of 3. We're going to have a boss team and a mote team. The mote team's pretty easy. Once the fight is underway, these yellow bar minotaurs will start strutting their stuff up the corridors and then prancing around in this middle area. Taking out these minotaurs is how you get motes to bank. 1 minotaur will drop a total of 5 motes. Once again, make sure you call out who is picking up first, second, and third. Only one person will need to pick up motes at any given time, and you will run towards the relay that is sending up that light beam. Run all the way down there, bank the motes, that gives you the buff, and now you have to protect it from sacrificing Vex. While this is happening, whoever is second on the mote team, he or she now is taking out the next Minotaur in line, picking up those motes, and then heading down the corridor to replace number 1, because the Enlightened buff will be starting to fade by this time. Once 1 and 2 switch, it's now number 3's turn to pick up the motes, bank them, and replace a teammate. Now there's 2 ways you can do this, guys. You can do it the easy way or the faster, riskier way. You can pick up 5 motes at a time and then just keep running back and forth replacing teammates, or after your very first bank of 5 motes, you can start picking up 10 motes at a time by killing 2 minotaurs. Now if you do this, you need to be on point and fast because enlightenment could run out while guarding the relay totem. So if you choose to grab 10 at a time, make sure you are actively hunting the minotaurs and not waiting for them to come to you in the middle. The whole point of this encounter is to guard the relay while banking motes. You need to bank 30 motes in total to overload the relay, which is then the start of the damage phase. We'll get to that soon. But just remember, from this encounter forward, if a Vex sacrifices 1, you're okay. If 2 sacrifice at the same time, it's going to be a team wipe. And on top of that, for every Vex that gets through and sacrifices, that is 10 motes lost, which means you're going to have to go back and replace the 10, which of course eats up more time. It is completely up to you and your team if you want to do the safe and long way and grab 5 motes at a time, or if you want to do the fast and risky way to go for 10. Totally up to you guys. Now moving over to the boss team, guys, here is where Mini Riven comes out. Just like the very first encounter, the Consecrated Mind will throw down 3 of these voltaic overload charges, and once again, we need an order to pick them up, first, second, and of course third, just like the mote team. The boss team's job is to stick to the boss like glue and follow it everywhere while helping out with adds and minotaurs if you can. Once the boss starts moving away from the center, be sure to call it out, something like boss is leaving, he's on the move, something like that. It lets your other teammates know that they have to drop what they're doing and go ahead and catch up. It helps out a lot when you're busy trying to help take out adds or running away from exploding harpies, minotaurs, etc. So once the boss gets down into one of these little alcoves past the death pits, the Consecrated Mind spits out a voltaic charge. Only one person needs to pick this up while the other 2 are going to stay back. Once the voltaic charge is grabbed, you will be stuck in place. When this happens, the other 2 on the boss team will need to stand next to you shoulder to shoulder, 1 on each flank, 1 on the left and 1 on the right. These positions are important. Consecrated will twirl and then spin out 3 fins just like a regular harpy. There's going to be the middle fin, which points up, the left fin, which points down and to the left, and the right fin, which of course points down and to the right. Once these fins unfurl, notice the red glowing circles. Now I call these eyes. Each fin will have 2 eyes that can glow. They are labeled inner and outer eyes, because if you could step back and look at the boss during the stage, the outer eyes would make a circle if you connected them all together, and the eyes located more towards the middle of the fin, they would make an inner circle or a smaller circle. Where you're standing dictates what fin you need to pay attention to. Middle, of course, gets the top middle fin. Left gets left fin, right gets right fin. What happens is this: only the teammate in the middle who was caught inside the voltaic charge and is frozen in place, only they can see which eye needs to be shot. On their fin, only one of the 2 eyes will be glowing. That glowing eye will tell you which eyes need to be shot across all 3 fins. For example, here you see that the eye closest to the tip of the fin is lit up. That is the outer eye. If you are on the left or right sides, both eyes will be glowing. So you need the middle person to call out which eye needs to be shot. Since the outer eye is glowing for the middle player, he or she calls out outer eye. That tells the two on the left and right they need to shoot the outer eye, and again, you only need to pay attention to the eye on your fin. So just for some practice, if I were to call out the inner eye, this is what the person in the middle would see. And of course, the other two would see both eyes glowing, but the inner eye is called, so they need to shoot the eye more towards the center of the fin, which is this one right here. The importance behind positioning comes from the fact that you will all have to take turns being in the middle at some point in time, grabbing the voltaic charge, just like the first encounter. If you have the charge and you grab it again, it'll kill you, so rotating through is how you continue this fight. Now in this footage you're watching here, I was number 1 on my team, so I grabbed the charge first. Once you call it out and everyone shoots the correct eye, the boss will stun, allowing you to escape immobility, and now we follow the boss back to the middle. Once it leaves again, we now switch. Whoever is number 2 now needs to be the person grabbing the voltaic charge in the middle, and I would take their spot on the left or the right depending on where they were. Now they simply call out inner or outer, and I have to shoot their call out. Once that's done, we simply switch for a third time. And once the boss has rotated through all 3 teammates, it is now time to switch teams. Boss team now becomes moat team, and moats go to boss. However, the moat team will have one person still guarding the relay while the boss is about to move on. So one person is going to have to stay back on the boss team to help shoot the eye. Even though you still have the voltaic charge countdown, you can still shoot eyes. You just cannot be the person in the middle making the call out. Now once the boss is stunned, the person guarding the relay can now rejoin their original team. Then you simply repeat the process. The moat team now has to deal with making callouts and stunning the boss, while the original boss team now has moat duty. Now there are other ways to do this encounter, but I'm not going to add any more to this. Once you do it this way and you start to learn the ins and outs of each encounter, feel free to start to switch things up and adopt other strategies that you might find easier or faster. But for walkthrough purposes, I found this the easiest to explain and the fastest way to get it done. Now depending on if your team used the 5 moat method or the 10 moat method, damage phase will be coming up here pretty soon. If you did 10 moats, then damage phase happens pretty soon after the team switch. Okay, so now that we have all of that behind us, let's talk about doing damage. Like I mentioned, damage phase occurs once you have deposited 30 moats into the active relay or totem. This then overloads the relay and draws in the Consecrated Mind. Now the boss pulls off some kind of Olympic track speed record when it comes time to do damage, so make sure you pay attention at the bottom left of your screen. It'll tell you that the Consecrated Mind moves towards the overloaded relay or something along those lines. Here it is right here. That's how you know it's time for DPS. Go ahead and book it towards the relay and immediately put down a Warlock well first. Once you're in place, pop all of the red eyes that you can, and the reason why you put down a well early is because this is timed. If you take too long to pop these eyes, it's going to be a team wipe. That's why it's important to get down here as fast as possible. So pop all of the red eyes, and once the final red eye is shot out, the boss will then uncover his core, which is a ball of Vex milk directly in the center. This is the time when you want to pop off your golden gun, use your Whisper, Izanagi, or your LMG. And if you have your raid mods on, be sure you see it proccing on the bottom left of your screen. If it's not, move closer to the totem. It is a very big boost to damage. Take a couple of shots and then start walking forward while you're shooting. You have to leave the well behind and make it inside the corridor, because right at the entrance where the walls begin, the boss is going to throw down a Vex barrier, blocking the team from chasing it and doing damage. So you have to beat that wall if you want to continue doing damage. As soon as you know you're past the wall, throw down another well or Titan bubble, and this is when you want to tether. Try to hit the boss directly so the tether moves with him. Stand still at first until he becomes too far to accurately hit. Then start scoping down and shooting while you're walking. You will have to leave your bubble and well behind, but the tether now gives you the bonus damage. Believe it or not, Divinity also works fairly well for this encounter too. I haven't been a big fan of Divinity here recently, but this is one encounter where I've had some success. Just keep shooting until the white orb starts to glow red, and then congrats my friend, that is one damage phase down. With it being so far into Shadowkeep right now, you can pretty much 2-phase this boss fairly easily. However, if you slip up or miss a lot of shots, it might take you 3 damage phases. But no matter, because the more you do this and the more you practice, the easier this encounter becomes. Once damage is over, break back up into the same teams you had at the start of this encounter, original boss team and original moat team. By now, everyone's countdown should be close to resetting. Simply repeat that, and then you're done, guys. This encounter really is not that difficult. Once again, it's just about getting into the swing of things and learning how to do the eye callouts. That's the biggest thing to adjust to. but once you know how this boss fight works, it starts to become pretty easy and it's rather fun. So yeah, that's it, Guardians. Grab your loot, and now you are off to the second hidden loot chest within this raid. And it's also my favorite part of the raid, which is kind of like a leisurely platforming adventure. Not really a jumping puzzle, because it's not that hard, but instead it's more of like a sightseeing tour, I guess you could say. While in a few months it might get old, right now I absolutely love climbing up these cliffs and checking out the awesome skyboxes of the Black Garden. Last Wish used to be the best looking raid, but not anymore. Bungie absolutely nailed the skyboxes within this raid. But for me, guys, I am out of here, y'all. As always, thank you all so much for watching and for supporting Planet Destiny. If this guide has helped you out, then hit that like button and subscribe for more Garden of Salvation raid guides here on Planet Destiny. Share this video with your Discord group, clanmates, family, and friends. Comment down below if you have anything to add that will help out a fellow Guardian looking to clear this part of the raid. Once again, thank you for watching Planet Destiny, your one-stop shop for everything Destiny 2 Shadowkeep and Garden of Salvation. Keep those eyes open for the final raid guide, which will be the 4th encounter, the Sanctified Mind, as well as other videos including guides, reviews, secrets, and news videos. But until then, this is your dude Sly, and I will see you all in the next one.